Hi everyone. This is the voice behind the noise. And I am Myron. Recently, the tension in Ukraine has intensified, and false information has appeared in the international public opinion field from time to time, using the Ukraine issue to smear China's image, trying to confuse the situation, and provoke Sino-Russian relations. In the Ukraine crisis, what discourse traps did the United States set up for China with a narrative based on Western logic? Specifically, Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi broke the discourse trap of the West in the following 10 aspects. The first big trap is to frame China for knowing Russia's military plans for a long time. Russia is an independent and autonomous power with its own strategic decisions. The West, however, blamed China for not preventing Russia's military actions and blamed China for the problem. The purpose is to cover up the real reasons behind Russia and Ukraine's Western provocation and the threat of NATO's eastward expansion. The development of the situation in Ukraine to this day is the result of the combined effect of various factors. Just like the saying goes, Rome was not built in a day. The second major trap is to frame China's turn a blind eye to the deterioration of the situation in Russia and Ukraine. It is absolutely wrong for the West to accuse China of doing nothing on the Ukraine issue. Their aim is to deny China's active role in international affairs. China has always advocated maintaining regional peace and defuses crises through consultation. China has done a lot of work in persuading peace and promoting talks, and has been in close communication with all parties. On the second day of the conflict, when President Xi Jinping spoke with President Putin, he proposed that China would like to see Russia and Ukraine for peace talks as soon as possible. The third pitfall is to smear China's support for Russia's special military operations. Some U.S. politicians and media put forward this judgment in order to put China in the frame of China-Russia alliance, deny China's independent and peaceful foreign policy, and distort the basis of non-alignment, non-confrontation, and non-targeting of third parties in Sino-Russian relations. Whether it is the Iranian nuclear crisis or the North Korean nuclear crisis, China's position is consistent. At the 2022 press conference, Wang Yi re-emphasized that China has always maintained an objective and fair attitude and made independent judgments based on the merits of the matter. The fourth trap is to slander China as happy to see the deterioration of the situation in Russia and Ukraine. The West speculates that China is secretly having fun the situation in Russia and Ukraine because it is a strategic opportunity period for China. This is a complete slander and is intended to put China on the opposite side of world peace and development. The fifth trap is the claim that China doesn't care about human rights in Ukraine. The purpose of this argument is to provoke Sino-Ukrainian relations, try to turn China into a party to the Russia-Ukraine dispute, and even deny China's efforts to provide humanitarian assistance. On the contrary, China has been making appeals in all aspects to safeguard the humanitarianism of the Ukrainian people, hoping to avoid the disaster of Ukrainian humanitarianism, and has put forward 6 proposals to this end. The sixth trap is speculation that China plans to take advantage of the worsening situation in Russia and Ukraine to recover Taiwan. The West dug a logical trap, comparing Ukraine to a realistic version of the future Taiwan issue. This is complete nonsense. The Taiwan issue and the Ukraine issue are fundamentally different, and there is no comparison between the two. The most fundamental difference is that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory, and the Taiwan issue is entirely China's internal affairs. Equating Ukraine with Taiwan is deliberately confusing basic facts. The seventh trap is to imagine that China and Russia intend to jointly overthrow the world order. Since China and Russia issued the joint statement of the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation on International Relations and Global Sustainable Development in the New Era on February 5, the West claimed that China and Russia should join forces to try to overthrow the so-called Western order and to create the so-called world order dominated by China and Russia. This is also nonsense. Sino-Russian relations are one of the most critical bilateral relations in the world. Sino-Russian cooperation not only brings benefits and well-being to the people of two countries, but also contributes to world peace, stability, and development. China and Russia have been the stabilizing forces of the world order since the end of World War II, while the U.S. and the West are precisely the destructive forces. The eighth trap is to slander China for providing so-called military support in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. In the early days of World War I and World War II, the United States sold weapons to both sides of the war, making huge war profits. During the Russia-Ukraine conflict, some U.S. politicians and media speculated on China based on their own thoughts and actions, delusionally portraying China as a warmonger. Wang Yi clearly stated that China-Russia relations are based on non-alignment, non-confrontation, and non-targeting of third parties. China will never do anything to add fuel to the fire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, nor will it unilaterally provide Ukraine with military support like some Western countries. The ninth trap is speculation that China will cut off trade with Russia and Ukraine. China will not do this. China has made it clear that it opposes any form of illegal unilateral sanctions, and Wang Yi also clearly called on all parties to resolve disputes in a peaceful manner through dialogue. At any time, China opposes unilateral sanctions, which cannot resolve any disputes. The 10th trap is to smear China as an initiator who wants the situation in Ukraine to worsen, while whitewashing the United States is the détente of the situation in Ukraine. On the contrary, the United States is the original initiator of the Ukraine incident. At the press conference, Wang Yi euphemistically pointed out that in order to maintain their hegemonic status, some major powers regained the Cold War mentality and created camp confrontations, which further aggravated the turmoil and division, and made the problem-ridden world even worse. All in all, the timing of the press conference of State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi is just right. At present, the international public opinion field is full of all kinds of false information spread by Western media. Foreign Minister Wang Yi's press conference is an accurate, objective and pragmatic response to the information war and public opinion war over the Russia-Ukraine situation. Okay, that's all for today. See you in the next video.